Hi, we are the Good Ship Illustration, and we run online courses to help illustrators and image makers navigate a creative career. We are Tanya,
Katie
and Helen. We have about 70 years experience between us, each of us working in a different area of illustration.
Welcome to Message in a Bottle, our new podcast answering your questions. You can send your messages to goodshipillo@gmail.com and title it Message in a Bottle so we know what it's about. Welcome back.
So this week we're talking all about analogue or digital artwork. We always get questions about this, don't we?
and Helen's the perfect person to answer because she's just been on the whole journey.
I have. Yes. So the first question is, I'm constantly torn between analogue and digital. I love drawing from life and then developing my ideas from memory and sketches. I would like to combine the two. It's not always possible to have my iPad on location and difficult to sketch in direct sunlight. It is, isn't it? Your iPad outside is a nightmare. You just see your own face reflected back, don't you?
And if it's a hot day, the black screen absorbs all the heat and then it's almost burny hot to touch. So yeah, I think taking your sketchbook outside to do ye oldie analogue drawing from life.
Yeah, I'd never take my iPad out with me for that kind of drawing. I will draw from life with my iPad in the house, but outdoors I'd always take a sketchbook with me.
Yeah.
But you can scan it or take a photo of it and stick it into Procreate or Photoshop or whatever, can't you?
Yeah, I think maybe if that's the way you've been working traditionally and working in sketchbook, just carry on, because the work that you scan from a sketchbook can end up as final artwork. You know, if you can identify when you're really sort of performing at your best in terms of sketches, if you just scan that in at high resolution, even if it's really small, like double the resolution up to 300-400 dpi, and then you can do a lot in Photoshop with that. You can import it in and use digital processes like levels or the contrast tool or photocopy to intensify the line definition and change the strength of it, like if it's a really pale sketch and you want to give it some oomph. And you can knock out if the paper's a bit marked or a bit cream, so you increase the contrast and then you've got a lovely juicy black and white sketch. And from that you can apply colour to the line work by dropping, if you go into layers, you've got a screen option, and if you've got a colour in there you can turn that line to colour, or you could plug in colours into the black and white colour palette at the bottom of your tools list, and then you could photocopy it. So you could photocopy it with a red background and a yellow line. And then even if you just left it as a simple sketch, you can apply something that looks like traditional colour, watercolour washes on it by using the multiply option in the layer palette to change the transparency. There's lots you can do.
I love that multiply tool.
It's
amazing.
Isn't it?
You can layer up your colours and then so if you've got a yellow and a blue, then you can get the green in the middle where you can see through it. It's like screen printing.
Yeah, it is. It's the screen printing tool. They should just call it that.
Yeah.
If you're listening and you've never used Photoshop or Procreate or anything, it's a little bit like making your line work be on acetate on an overhead projector. You know, when the background's see-through but your lines are still there. So then the colours underneath you can change.
Yes, and then if you changed a colour layer, if you flicked it to multiply, from normal to multiply, then you can see through that colour layer to the colour underneath. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah. Computer, I think, and people always ask us, I don't know why I just randomly said computer. People always ask us about keeping the life in final artwork. And if you're using your your sketches from life, those will be full of life anyway, and then you can fiddle about on the computer and keep that magic bit.
It's the same when you're making a picture book. You might do some rough drawings that just work so well. They're just perfect, and there isn't a better version of it. And for people who work digitally, that's brilliant because you can just keep that original drawing, work some colour into it, and that's it. It's your final drawing.
And you'll save time. Win-win.
Because sometimes when you trace over a sketch, unless you've managed to work some tricks on yourself, you tighten up, don't you? It's like, here it is now, I'll just casually trace over it. You've lost all that intensity and urgency that helped you draw the sketch in the first place. And you've got to kind of trick yourself into feeling the same so that the line has the same character or quality. Otherwise it just looks like a lazy trace. You can spot badly traced drawings everywhere, can't you?
Yeah.
Especially people who trace photographs.
Yeah, you can really see it, can't you?
I see it
you
in
can really see
drawings
it
as well.
Yeah, people who've put a photo in Procreate and then drawn over the top and then got rid of the photo, you can totally see it. It's very, very different to a drawing.
I'm sorry if there's anyone out there who does that.
Well, carry on doing it if you're happy, but we know you're
doing what your art teacher was saying, it's totally true. Don't draw from photographs.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you have to sometimes for reference, and a lot of illustrators draw from photographs initially to reference gather. But, you know, when people draw someone who's got a laughing expression on their face, that you know there's no way observational drawing could never have captured that millisecond of laughter.
Yeah.
I think when you've done years of drawing from life, or you really know what your work is, looking at photos is fine. You can look at the photo quickly. Like, for example, I'm looking at Graham's bikes parked there. Like, if I draw a bike from my imagination, I can never remember where everything is.
I can't.
Which sounds bonkers. I should be able to remember that. It's not that hard, but I don't. So every time I have to draw a bike, I have to do a quick Google. Oh yeah, bike, yeah, okay. Then I get rid of it, the Google image. I don't sit and draw it with the Google image in front of me. I just get a vague shot in my head a bit, and then I vaguely draw it. And that is a way better drawing than a Google search and then copy it onto a piece of paper, because that drawing will have no life.
Yeah, it's too faithful. Well, it's back to your memory drawing plan again. That's where your voice is, the filter of your memory and what you remember, and all the bits you can't remember. And if you still can't draw the bike, that is you, actually. A really bad drawing of a bike could be so lovely.
That's the fun of art club, isn't it? At the end of art club, we do that 10-second animal. We shout out an animal, you have to draw it in 10 seconds. Some of those animals are hilarious and brilliant, and never would have been so funny and brilliant if we'd drawn them from a Google picture.
It'd be really boring if you would like draw a stoat and then you got a picture of a stoat up and drew it. Whereas the real stoat drawing, maybe we'll link it in the description because it was so good.
It's legendary.
It didn't make it to the grid, did it?
I don't think it did. It's still in one of my folders somewhere. It's like a long table with 4 little legs.
Exactly what a stoat looks like.
If we had the bandwidth and energy, I'd love to have a 10-second animal page, maybe within our super new website when we finally get it, because there's going to be an art club page, isn't there?
Yeah.
And then we'll have the 10-second animal gallery, like Vision On Gallery.
Not to encourage people, why should you learn from the good ship? Here's why. Because they're very accomplished.
You can learn to draw a table stoat too.
The next question's about storage. I'm wondering how you store all your artwork. Do you take photos, scans, put it in a big filing cabinet? How do you find out what you want from this for your future work?
No, being organised.
Yeah. It's the never-ending question. I feel like digital stuff's easy. I use Dropbox. I pay money to have the posh Dropbox where I can like access it from everywhere and store as much as I can and never fill it. But yeah, physical storage is another story.
Yeah, I love Dropbox. Every project I do goes in Dropbox, give it the proper name, a date on it. I share it with the publisher so they can dip in and look at the latest set of roughs. If I'm doing a book festival, I put all my tech in there. They can get my music, my films, everything out of it. It's brilliant. But yeah, artwork made on paper. I've got a whole house full of cardboard folders. It's a fire hazard. Terrible.
I've got it stuffed under cabinets in the studio, just out of sight of Zoom. Yeah. So that it's tidy.
When I'm at art club, my legs are usually kind of shuffled around the side because under the desk it's so stacked up with folders of art club work. Yeah.
Honestly, the more you say this, the more it freaks me out. I think we've got to get storage. We'll even share physical storage between us. Because I hate saying it, but
all illustrators.
Yeah, well, we could do 3 of us. We could have illustrator storage, but 2 or 3 really well-known illustrators have lost all their work in fires from their studios. Mm-hmm. Everything they owned, 30, 40-year career went up in flames. And that lovely man who runs for Design for Today, all his stuff went up. So there is something to be said for us all to get a bit more organised. I mean, storage for drawings wouldn't cost a lot, and there's storage units all over. It's worth considering. So I'm being a bit mumsy about it.
We need to ask Marie Kondo what she would do.
Oh yeah.
Does it spark joy and thank it?
I do that every now. I mean, I don't think does it spark joy. I suppose I do, because every now and again I'll clear out a folder and think, do I still like this? Is this exciting? Thing is, I never have that sort out too close to when I did the artwork. Because if I sort out as soon as I've done the book, I'll get rid of the wrong things. But I like to leave a folder full of absolutely everything from that book. And then a couple of years down the line, I'll have a look through it again and get rid of all the stuff I don't want. But I usually end up keeping the weirdy little scribbles and the things that probably I would have thrown away when I first did the book.
Yeah, you've had that time to get some distance.
Yeah.
From it.
Well,
Yeah.
I showed you, didn't I, on your last visit? There's a self-portrait in my hall
Oh, yeah.
that I did when I was 17. And it's been moved from my house to my mum's house, back to my mum's house. It's like pass a parcel. Who's going to take this down the tip? I'm now thinking I might pretend to that it's done by an unknown famous artist and give it to all at auction and see if we can raise some money from it.
You should do that.
Can I do
That
a
would be good.
Picasso signature on us?
Yeah, go on. I mean, it's 40 years old. I still can't decide whether I hate it, but I can't throw it away.
Oh, you don't like it?
No, I don't like it
Oh.
at all. I want it to go. But every time I touch it, it falls into that middle area of you can't throw this portrait away.
Yeah, because you did it when you were so young.
Also, if you've kept it 40 years, you've come this far, you might as well keep it.
I've got the same of
With
big
your rubber
A1
plants.
drawings of cheese plants.
Yeah,
Rubber
exactly.
plants done with charcoal. They're really boring.
You can't get rid of this.
And they're when I used to really like when I was at sixth form doing my A levels, drawing with charcoal and then rubbing out to get the negative space.
Yeah.
I was really, really into that. Big sheets of A1 rubbed out with charcoal. They're so boring.
But
But I've had them too long to get rid of them now.
future Helen is saying the Helen Stevens Foundation will need this for room 1 of the gallery.
I really
When-
hope they don't.
With the owl drawing as well that your mum's got.
Oh, that is a
Yeah.
treasure. So yeah, my grandma kept a picture I did of an owl that I did with brown, all different shades of brown felt pen when I was about 7, and she put it in a little frame and kept it. So that survived. That's the only drawing I've got from my childhood. I love that.
We didn't mention iCloud. Most people have got iCloud as well. You can store there. I don't understand it. I think it's voodoo. And I'm worried about not being able to get back into it. And
I just ignore iCloud.
Yeah,
It just tells
too.
me that it's full all the time.
Me
Yeah.
too. I have no idea what that means. I know it's full, but what do they want me to do? Other
And
than
it's
throw
full of-
more money at it, and I'll be even more confused.
Exactly.
And if you haven't put much in there, what is it full of anyway? And why do they want more money? I'm so glad I'm not alone in that.
It's because I take about 20,000 photographs. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, what a surprise, it's full. Yeah.
And the other good thing about Dropbox is that we said before, didn't we? The sharing tool is so brilliant. Just copy link and share it with clients. In fact, most clients much prefer a Dropbox link rather than you sending them a load of roughs as JPEGs in email, which I've done for years.
Well, yeah,
till I
because
discovered
you can either
Dropbox.
clog up their email inbox with attachments, or you can send them a link that expires and stress yourself out and them out, and they'll be like, oh, they haven't downloaded it, quick, download it. So yeah, the nice thing, well, apparently you can pay to make the WeTransfer thing last, but like if you pay for Dropbox anyway, it's just everything.
Yeah.
Other storages are available.
Oh, yeah, of course. So, did we talk about? Someone said.
We did, yeah.
Someone wanted to bring in. A question for you all. How important is it for an illustrator of picture books to be working digitally as well as traditionally? I see so much work that is made digitally now that it feels like traditional media might be falling out of favour when it comes to book illustration. Helen.
No.
Final word.
That's it. No, it's definitely not falling out of favour. They love any lovely artwork, however it is made. It really doesn't matter. They don't mind whether it's drawn on paper or it's made digitally, as long as it's lovely artwork. All of my books until recently have been drawn on paper, and I don't scan them in and then send them digital files. I wrap up the paper artwork and I take it to the post office and send it special delivery. Cross my fingers and hope for the best. Sometimes after it's gone off in the post, I've thought, oh, I wish I'd, like in How to Hide a Lion, there's a bit where Iris is pulling a thorn out of the lion's paw. And after the artwork had gone off to Asda post office, I thought, oh, I should have drawn a little box of plasters beside the lion because kids love plasters. So I then drew on a tiny piece of paper about 5 centimetres by 5 centimetres, a little box of plasters, wrapped it up in a tiny envelope and sent it with a little note inside saying, please drop this in on the picture of the lion with the thorn on his paw.
Did they drop it in?
Yeah,
Amazing.
of course they did.
That's
Yeah.
real life Photoshop, isn't it? With a time delay as well.
You actually sent the lion plasters.
Yes. Yeah. And then recently I've been working like digital hybrid, so I'll work on pieces of paper, sit at my light box, my rough drawings, paint over the top, make layers. So I'll have like the layer that's got the line on it, a layer of yellow, a layer of scribbly black crayon. I scan in all those layers, lay them up on Photoshop or Affinity Photo, And that means like the yellow layer, I can make that yellow layer really pop without restarting the whole illustration again. So while the scanning is a complete nightmare and I hate it and it's really boring, the benefit is that if I change my mind on one layer, like the colour or my line drawing or something, I just have to redo that one thing instead of restarting the entire illustration from scratch. And then recently I've got into Procreate, making the whole thing on Procreate, which has been brilliant. Really, really, really love it. But I haven't gone from Procreate to the book being printed yet. So I've sent one project to one publisher. They really love it. It seems fine, but we haven't seen it on paper yet. I've sent another project to another publisher. It was just one-off illustration. They've printed it out on a piece of paper and put it in front of me. And I was really disappointed with it. Like on screen, it looked amazing. On a piece of paper, it looks very different. Like the line doesn't have any intention. It's all a little bit blurry. There's just something about it. Doesn't have the depth of my artwork on paper.
You were working in high res as well, weren't you?
Working really high res. There's no reason it should be blurry, but maybe the tools I've picked are not quite right. So now I feel like I love Procreate and I felt like I'd learned it, and now I realise actually I've still got quite a lot to learn here. I don't know how it transfers to print, and I've got more to learn about that.
There might be something to be said for getting a really good G-Clay quality printer at home and outputting Procreate for the first few times for you to see it, because even on a technical level, you're looking on a large iPad at 72 DPI resolution, and then it's output at 300, and so much is going to happen between those two. That said, I do the same on Photoshop, and I'm using brushes on Photoshop, and I don't have that problem.
It might be the tools, it might be the brushes I've chosen. Also, I've got that horrible thing where on one of the pictures I've done, I actually recognise what brush it is. And if I recognise what brush it is, so do other illustrators. And when I see that on Instagram and I recognise a Procreate brush, I think, oh, I know what that is. And so, yeah, I've started to mess about making my own brushes or buying brushes I like and then tweaking them.
I love the rake brushes. You know, the things that are like a cone.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just so in love with them. And every time I want to use them, I think, well, you can't because everyone knows it's a rake brush. An unchanged, basic digital brush, but I'm so in love with them.
They are lovely.
And the little dot brushes as well, in all their variations.
The half-tone things.
Yeah.
Oh, I love
and you
those
can
as well.
Half-tone lines.
I'm happy with those. I don't mind if people know I've used those. For some reason, that's all right in my head. That's acceptable.
That's because it's a fake brush. You mean when you're trying to make something that's like one of your real brushes, like a watercolour?
Yeah.
The other thing as well that sometimes happens, I don't know Procreate well enough to know if it happens in Procreate or not, but on Photoshop, you're given a brush at a certain point size. If you scale that up beyond 30%, it's the same thing as scaling up a raster image. Raster image. It will blur. So the brush will blur.
I wonder if that's what I've done with the line on this drawing, and that's why it looks very vague and fluffy. Might be.
It could be a bit of a learning curve, but printing out might kind of find a way.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I might get a better printer.
What did you do for fairy tales? Because wasn't that another step
that was
into
a hybrid.
The digital world?
Yeah, that was a hybrid. So that's all. I had layers of layout paper where I painted each colour in black. So like a blue layer, just printed black on white paper. Yellow layer, black on white paper. Line drawing, black on white paper. Then I scanned all those black layers in and turned them to one of my 5 colours in the palette. So I think I had blue, red, turquoise.
Green?
I don't know if I had a green or I made that from overlapping the yellow and the blue.
Yeah.
I think I had a magenta.
Lovely frog image.
Yeah.
Oh, the frog, the girl kissing the frog.
Yeah.
That's my favourite picture of that whole book.
Thank you. So yeah, I scanned those in. They were literally black. All of the images for that are black on white paper. Scanned those in, manipulated them on Photoshop, dropped colours in, and built it up that way, which was really lovely result. I'm really happy with the result, but the scanning. Ugh.
Yeah, so you wouldn't do that again?
No, not for that size of book, because that was it had 9 chapters.
How many illustrations?
I think I'd manage it for a picture book with like 16 spreads.
Yeah.
But that book of fairy tales nearly killed me.
How many illustrations were in there?
Oh, I don't know. 50. Some of them were double page spreads, some of them vignettes, maybe more. I can't remember.
It's such a shame because anthologies are sort of bread and butter for some illustrators, aren't they, in publishing? Like we were talking about Libby's maps, or whether it's children's poems or whatever, but if one illustrator does them, it's too exhausting as a job. And the fee must really need to be adjusted.
I agreed to a fee to do that book, and it seemed reasonable. Then decided to choose the most difficult way of working possible, which involved hundreds of scans. It took me so long to do it that the advance had gone, long ago. It nearly killed me. I would never make a book like that again.
That's dedication to self-development and your craft.
It was dedication to self-development. It was just, I really want to do this. I'm going to do it.
But it was mad. It's gorgeous as well.
Yeah. I'm pleased with it.
Yeah, like when you hold it in your hands.
It's really interesting. Most people will move from traditional to digital to find a quicker way to work.
Not Helen. She's how can I slow this down?
How can I make my life even harder?
Why do one step when you can do 4?
But I really admired you because it was such a purist approach. You tried all those watercolour brushes and you said they all look too fake. And the other day I had to try and develop some watercolour textures, and I went through the whole thing, like 40 brushes later, and went, whoa, they all look a bit cheesy.
It's hard to find good watercolour brushes.
So when you did it, it does make sense. And it was a purity and a dedication that I need to keep my signature in this, which is fair enough as an illustrator. Your digital journey can't suddenly blow you off track and you don't look like the true Helen. So it's interesting. You retrofitted yourself digitally.
Yeah. I would use that technique of working again, but only if it was a small book.
Yeah.
A board book or like one-off in a what's the word? Anthology.
Oh, yeah.
If it was one, but yeah, God.
I wonder if anyone else does work like that. Maybe, because we've said before, you do things, you come around to a way of doing things and you don't know if it's right or wrong. And then you meet other illustrators and they say, yeah, that's exactly what I do as well, because I didn't understand the real way.
Everybody seems to work like that. When I was doing interviews with all the illustrators for the picture book course, it always started off with the person apologising and saying, I have no idea how to do this properly, but this is what I do. And these are really successful picture book people. They're just like, I don't know what you're supposed to do. I just do this. And I realised that everybody just muddles along and finds their own weird way of working.
But do you think when people are doing picture books now, if they're working digitally, are they striving to make it look like it's not digital all the time?
Yeah, I think people are. Like, there's been so much digital artwork that I feel like when I'm scrolling through Instagram, if I see something handmade, my eyes are like, oh, that's delicious.
It's special.
And with my own digital artwork, I want it to reflect my drawn artwork. So I'm always looking for brushes that reflect my work. Or I'm now realising it's much better if I adjust brushes or make new brushes that reflect my work. It's funny, I had a meeting with a publisher last week, and they showed me a few books that they're working on at the moment. And we talked a lot about this subject, about Procreate being so new and illustrators are starting to use it, how publishers are finding that, how Procreate work looks when it's printed out on a sheet of paper compared to on a screen. And we looked at loads of books, and they showed me some really great books that are done on Procreate and were magic and beautiful, and you would never know they were digital, like Jarvis's new book, I think it's called.
Boy with the flowers in his hair.
There's Boy with Flowers in His Hair, but I got a sneaky peek at something new, and I'm not sure whether I'm allowed to say, but it was amazing.
Oh my God.
And then...
And his work is Procreate.
It's Procreate, and beautiful, and no problem with intensity of line or colour or anything. But then they showed me some other books that have been done digitally or on Procreate where they're just sort of flat and you don't get that feeling pulling you into the pictures. It's all a bit surfacey. The colours are all a bit too surfacey, no intention in the lines. And we were staring at them hard, all of us, trying to work out what it is that makes these ones work and these ones not work. Yeah. But they were not saying to me, that means you can't work digitally. They were just saying, look at this and look at this and look at this. Isn't this interesting?
Yeah.
Keep this in your mind while you're working. It's really handy.
Colour is an interesting one digitally because you can mix any colour you want. Your choices are infinite. You really have to plan beforehand before you get carried away with, I could use this colour, I can use that colour, and let's keep them all bright. Oh, look at the intensity. And then you end up with this vivid, intense palette that is perhaps not where you intended to be. And you do see a lot of digital work that's too bright. So doing that colour workshop again was interesting because you went back to a limited set of decisions that you could take. You know, I mean, you're mixing paint and you've got 2 colours of paint and some white. There's only a certain amount of options that you can get out of that. But when you're looking at that colour wheel and anything's possible, I think you can take total leave of your colour senses. And you're thinking you're doing something quite subtle and low colour value, but you start cranking things up like, oh, let's increase the saturation, let's increase the contrast. And you lose that humane or organic feeling that you can get with paint. So when we did that colour workshop, I was like, oh, look at these lovely dirty colours that I would have never picked off that colour wheel. Yeah. And it made me think, maybe the way to go is to do your colour decisions as that kind of colour workshop beforehand, and then match your digital palette and be really strict with yourself to only the colours that you made in paint and nothing else.
I think the project that I've just done, that I feel like it's going to really work, but I haven't seen it on paper yet, I just did that in yellow, cyan and magenta. Yeah. With a black overlay, which is similar to how I would paint with watercolour, because I just choose a few tubes of paint and I get the overlap on watercolour. So it's the same as that, really. And it looks like it works really well.
Because you're echoing what you do with paint in a traditional format.
Just thinking in exactly the same way as I do on paper, but making it digital. So I'm really hoping that one's going to work. Until I see it on paper, I'm not really going to know yet. But
you kind of need blinkers on. If you've come from traditional and then you go to the multi-option world of digital, you really have to stop trying all the sweeties.
I feel like I have to keep the same rules. So like I can't zoom in and go very close up on a little patch on my piece of paper. So if you do that digitally, if you zoom in on one area and now start drawing in detail there and then zoom back out, that area is just going to draw your eye all the time. It's going to look seriously weird. So there's all those things that you do on paper that you need to carry across when you go digital. Have a set of rules, boundaries.
It'd be great if you could plug in on your viewer, on your magnifying glass, on whatever digital thing you're using, that there is only a certain amount of zoom in that you can do that copies the human eye and your page. So all your proportions, like your physical distance from the paper, you'd never stick your nose on the paper and look at something really close. But you can do that
microscopic view.
And you get carried away and do all that kind of thing.
It's the devil's tool, that zoom in. I'm convinced. It is really bad.
I've got to really watch out for it, because if I start zooming in and write things and then zoom back out, you can't even read it because it's like written in fairy writing.
Oh yes, of course.
We're also meant to say, the colour workshop that we mentioned, you can do it because we've made it available to everyone, even you, even your granny. So we'll put the link in the description, but it's at www.thegoodshipillustration.com/colour, and colour is spelled in the UK spelling, COLOUR, and you can grab it there.
It's brilliant, isn't it? Oh, it's brilliant.
It's really good.
Tanya is just genius. And it's done the rounds on Instagram. People are loving it and doing it again and again and again.
And if you do it, share your work, because we love seeing your palettes and everything.
Use the hashtag goodshipillo so that we see it, and maybe tag us in it as well.
I love it. I get inspired when I see it. You know, you give someone a recipe, but they're coming out with totally different things as well.
Delicious colours.
Finding your freak flag in colour.
Yes, thank you very much for your questions. Send your message in a bottle in, and if you'd like to learn more about the Good Ship, you can go to www.thegoodshipillustration.com, and we also hang out on Instagram. We're at The Good Ship Illustration. And we'll see you later.
Brilliant.
Bye.
Bye.